Hi, Peter Charles here, Hooked Fly Fly Fishing. And in my previous video you saw me tie the Mickey fin in a tube fly version. Well, there's another way to tie it, and that's tying it in the round. So there's no really up or down to the fly. And I will still tie this with an up orientation so I can put my hook points the way I want them. But nevertheless, you don't have to worry about that if you don't want to. The whole idea of the in the round fly is it doesn't matter which way is up. Any direction is up. So let's get tying the Mickey fin and look at the materials. And this time I'm using a 2-inch 3/32 OD aluminum tube. In the round patterns tend to have long tubes and set the hook right at the very back. So that's what we're doing with this one. My thread is Viva 6/0 in black. My rib is Uni French in a medium silver oval. My body is Uni Mylar in a size 10 gold silver. And the wings are going to be red and yellow bucktail. So let's get going. So if you're worried about orientation, make sure your materials are all on the top. If you're not worried about orientation, then it doesn't matter. Your materials can be anywhere you like. So now we'll tie in our mylar. Now, in the previous one, I was relatively neat with the body. So we got a flat laying of the mylar. I am going to be deliberately messy this time. Do wide turns. And those wide turns will create facets in the mylar when I bind it on. And that gives it a little bit more sparkle. So it's your choice. You want to do it neat or you want to do it deliberately lumpy. And this one is the deliberately lumpy version. Now when we put the mylar on, I'm going to put a lot of tension on this to make it dig in to those lumpy turns. And you'll see the mylar is now got multiple facets on it. And look at this, you can see how it's sparkly. So sometimes neat doesn't always pay. I'll just put my finger on it so it won't move. And I'm just going to pull this tight. Because one of the problems you get into, and I mentioned this in the previous video, when you're tying mylar onto a tube, that last turn can get kind of lumpy when you try to tie it in. And so it loses tension and it pops up on you. So we'll make sure that's firmly in there. Clean that up. And I said in my previous video, I don't mind big heads for these kinds of flies. So let's take a moment, take a look at this. Look at those nice sparkles in there. You got all those facets in that body caused by making wide spaced turns of your thread. Now for the rib. Pull that on top. Trim off. And bring your thread to the back. Now the thing is, when you're putting on your bucktail in the round pattern, you want to mix the colors together, so you don't want to take big clumps to start. So I generally take very small clumps and mix them together and tie on a little bit at a time. It's tedious, but it does give you a better result in the end. So I've got red and yellow here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll these together over the garbage can. One of the problems is, and I've got this problem with this particular set of bucktails, is that they're different lengths. So you might want to make sure your points align even though your lengths of the bucktail are different. Now I'm going to check the length there, trim them off. Now they're not really that well mixed, so what you can do is just take them apart and put them back together. And this is something arthritic fingers I'm not very good at. So this is not going to be a perfectly mixed one, but you'll get the idea. I'll give that a little bit of a trim because the end gets ragged. There we go. Now when we tie this on, I'm going to use a pinch loop. Make the first couple of wraps very loose, then just take your thumb and spread them around. And put another couple of turns. And just leave it like that. Don't try to mix it up anymore. Now we get a next lump. We marry up the tips, roll them together. You know, separate them sort of half and half, put them back together. Get rid of the loose bits. Get it good and mixed. Get the length right. Now we're going to roll it over. And again, a couple of loose wraps. Spread it with your thumb. And now what I do here at this point, I'll take a look to see if I've got any gaps that need filling. So this area needs a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of yellow and, you know, just enough to fill that space. Spread it around with your fingers. That looks pretty good. Now you can see we've got that flaring at the end. If I just wound over that, I'll put a few extra turns in here just to bind it down so it doesn't move. But if I was to just wrap over that, it would look pretty ragged. So I'll come in here and give it a little bit of a haircut. Put a bit of a taper to it. So when I come in here and start wrapping down, my head smooths down as I go. Now I could have made the head a little shorter, but I don't mind this. It's going to make the fly a little bit more robust. And you know, a big head is not a bad thing on a tube fly. So there's our in the round fly. You can still, at this point, still move them a little bit if you wanted to, but that's pretty good. Now what I will do is I'm just going to come back to the back of the head and put one wrap or two wraps in there very loosely just to keep that wing from flaring up too much. There we go. Now we whip finish and some UV glue and now some top coat. Okay, there's our Mickey fin in the round. As you can see, the red and the yellow are mixed together reasonably well, as much as my fingers will allow me. And it gives you the overall round appearance. It doesn't matter which orientation the fly works in, though I try to give it an up side to it so I can key my hooks properly and they'll ride right side up. But other than that, it's a nice simple pattern. It'll work quite well. And as I say, you've got the choice of making a lumpy body or a nice smooth body, and the lumpy has that advantage of all those facets. So give it a try, the Mickey fin tied in the round. Cheers.